guys. Tonight we're bedding down somewhere unexpected, somewhere deep in the Mesozoic era. Under a sky peppered with unfamiliar stars. You lie on your back in a patch of mossy earth, thick with the scent of ferns and the low rustle of giant cycads swaying in the warm breeze. Overhead, a crescent moon hangs silently above the silhouette of a long-necked shape. And that low, rhythmic huffing sound? That's a sleeping Stegosaurus, breathing in slow motion like a living hill around you. The world hums not with the distant chatter of traffic or the low drone of a refrigerator, but with insect clicks, deep bellows, and the occasional far-off screech of something too fast and toothy to think about before bed. You can almost feel the vibrations under your back as a herd of hadrosaurs marches quietly through the night somewhere beyond the tree line. The air is thick, humid, and not exactly mosquito-free. Still, it's oddly peaceful until a faint thud echoes from behind the tree ferns, and the scent of something carnivorous wafts by. You probably won't survive this nap. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, drop your location and local time down in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're surrounded by stillness now, at least the kind of stillness that only exists in a place where even stillness can weigh several tons. The Stegosaurus next to you makes a low, guttural sound, something between a snore and a fog horn, and shifts slightly, sending a ripple through the surrounding grass. Its giant plates catch a glimmer of moonlight, casting striped shadows across the forest floor. You wonder, briefly, how such a creature even gets comfortable. And that's the first mystery, isn't it? You watch it huge, armored, probably half asleep and still twitching now and then, and you wonder, how did dinosaurs sleep? Not just where, or when, or how often, but physically. How does something the size of a delivery truck fold itself down into something nap-friendly? You inch a little closer, not that it notices, and get a better look. Its legs are half-tucked, body slumped slightly to the side, tail stretched long behind it like a giant lizard's sleepy trail. The posture is awkward, but also kind of familiar, like a horse trying to sit, which is funny, considering that paleontologists often compare stegosaurs to modern reptiles and large mammals. Depending on what day it is, most scientists agree that, like modern reptiles, many dinosaurs probably didn't flop down on their sides the way cats do. Instead, they'd lower themselves gradually, sometimes kneeling with their front limbs before shifting into a rest position. Picture a stegosaurus folding down like a crane, clunky, slow, but surprisingly deliberate. Of course, that means they'd also take a while getting back up. Not exactly ideal if you're in a world where something like an Allosaurus could leap out of the shadows and turn you into midnight snack sushi. But here's where it gets quirky. Some fossilized dinosaur trackways have been found with very peculiar impressions, not just footprints, but full-body impressions where the creature clearly laid down and rested. The best of these are found in places like Colorado and Utah, where the mud was just soft enough to record even belly prints. So yes, at least some dinosaurs left behind a fossilized version of I needed a quick nap. And then there's your new roommate here, the Stegosaurus. Those tail spikes. Probably not great in close quarters if you were another Stegosaurus, and your pal started tossing in his sleep. You'd want to give him a wide berth. Sleepover parties among dinosaurs likely had very firm personal space rules. Now imagine what it would feel like to be beside this creature as it breathes. Its ribs expand like bellows. Its massive lungs possibly even bird-like in structure filled with warm, wet air. Its tail shifts just once, lightly brushing a log that snaps like firewood. You're not exactly safe lying here, but the danger is soft-edged like a dream you haven't finished. Historians well, paleontologists in this case still argue whether dinosaurs slept like birds or reptiles. The line gets blurry. Some researchers argue that since many theropods, those bipedal, meat-eating dinosaurs share evolutionary links with birds, it's likely that they even tucked their heads under their arms to sleep. Just like chickens do. Just like pigeons do. Just like the weird little parrot outside your window probably did this morning. Before squawking into your REM cycle. Of course. That theory mostly applies to smaller dinosaurs. You try picturing a 9-ton Triceratops delicately tucking its face under a forelimb. It doesn't quite work, does it? It's like imagining a rhino trying to curl into a beanbag. Still, that mental image, worth it. You glance to your left again. The Stegosaurus snorts, and a passing beetle the size of your palm disappears under its foot with a soft crunch. The forest has dimmed, not because it's darker, but because your brain is, in its own way, beginning to slow. The sensory overload of fern smells, hot breath, and flickering prehistoric stars is fading. You feel heavy now, sleepy, as if the world has rolled back time just for you. And you're not alone in that. Even in this ancient world, sleep was sacred. It had to be. The only creatures who could afford to sleep deeply were either too dangerous to be eaten, too well hidden, or just lucky. Everything else? They snuck naps like overworked interns, catching fragments of rest in the warm glow of dusk or the chilled shade of morning fog. There's something deeply comforting about that, knowing that for all their size, their scales, their claws, and thunderous movements, dinosaurs needed naps too. They dreamed maybe not in the way we do, but they drifted. They rested. They exhaled long and slow, letting the night press gently over them like a weighted blanket made of stars and ancient. Pollen dot and maybe, just maybe, they had their favorite spots. That one patch of moss between two rocks, that dry burrow under a hill, that smooth patch of sandy shore where they could stretch out and listen to the distant rumble of ocean waves. The Stegosaurus beside you stirs again and lets out a noise that almost sounds like a sigh. Maybe she's dreaming of tastier ferns. Maybe she's not dreaming at all. Still, it's nice to imagine a warm gust rustles your hair. Somewhere in the canopy above, something feathered flutters from branch to branch, cooing softly. You don't even flinch. You're part of this world now, part of this night. And as your own breathing starts to mimic the slow, low rhythm of the creature beside you, you realize you've made it. At least for tonight. No alarms. No asteroid. Just sleep. You wake, or rather, drift deeper into a moment where time has folded back on itself like a forgotten blanket. The Stegosaurus is gone now, lumbered off into the underbrush sometime between dreams. In its place is silence, not true silence. Of course, there's always something creaking or buzzing or chirping in the Mesozoic night, but the kind that hums beneath your skin, the kind that says something big is nearby. You don't see it at first, but you feel it, a subtle trembling. In the ground, not rhythmic like footsteps, but steady, pressing, like something massive settling its weight just out of sight. Then, through the parting of ferns and horsetails, you catch a glimpse of an enormous tail, then a leg as wide as a doorway, and then, at last, the trunk-like neck and small, faraway head of a sauropod, a long-necked, 100-foot hunk of sleepy, dinosaur muscle and bone, folding itself down like a living construction crane preparing for shutdown. This is where things get funny, because for all their dominance on prehistoric Earth, sauropods weren't exactly designed for relaxation. They were built to walk, eat, grow, and then eat some more, lying down, not really in their comfort zone. And yet here one is, curling, up in the clearing like a derailed bus learning yoga. You watch in fascination as it bends its front knees first, lowering its body like it's sinking into quicksand. Then the back legs follow, joints locking in odd places, toes flexing against the soft mud. The process is agonizingly slow. If you had a stopwatch, you'd break it waiting for this creature to just sit. That's because a full-grown sauropod, like a Brachiosaurus or Apatosaurus, weighed somewhere between 20 and 80 tons. Their bones were strong, sure, but lying down wasn't exactly restful. It was logistically complex. Imagine trying to park an aircraft carrier inside your bedroom. Every inch matters, every angle counts. And once they were down, well, getting back up again was a real issue. Studies of fossilized bone structures show that while their limb joints could bend enough to kneel or sit, standing required massive effort and probably a few minutes of awkward shifting and wobbling. No springing to action here. If something startled them mid-nap, they were toast. Possibly literally, if it was near a volcano. Which brings us to a fun little mystery. How much did these giants actually sleep? Paleontologists still debate it. Some argue that due to their constant need to eat. Imagine eating hundreds of pounds of low-calorie plants each day just to maintain your bulk. Sauropods may have dozed in short, frequent bursts like elephants do today. Others believe that if predators were scarce or if the environment was relatively calm, these creatures may have taken deeper rests, lying down fully in shaded riverbanks or fern groves. Fossil trackways and resting traces tell part of the story. In some places, sauropod-sized belly prints are found alongside footprints, showing that these creatures sometimes collapsed entirely, whether that was to sleep, cool off, or nurse an injury. No one's quite sure. Historians, the fossil kind, still argue whether those impressions mark rest or a slow-motion fall. Either way, it's one of the rare moments where the earth itself remembers how a dinosaur slept. Here's something more surprising. Some reconstructions suggest that sauropods may have slept standing up, not all the time again. The knees and hips could bend, but if they needed quick rests, their massive legs may have locked into place like a giraffe's. Horses and other large animals today often nap upright when they feel exposed. It's the kind of evolutionary cheat code that says, I can't afford comfort, I need survival. You move carefully, trying not to crunch any twigs. The sauropod's tail lies stretched across the clearing like a fallen bridge. It doesn't move. Its flanks rise and fall with slow, seismic rhythm. You inch a little closer, circling around toward its face. It's sleeping, eyes half closed, mouth twitching slightly, as though chewing some phantom leaves in its dreams. The skin around its jaw is thick, wrinkled, stretched across bones that look older than mountains. Its breath comes in soft huffs, each exhale scented faintly with damp leaves and river algae. And here's where your brain starts to wonder: do dinosaurs dream? If modern birds do, and they do, then it's not impossible. In fact, some scientists believe that the sleeping patterns of certain dinosaurs may have included phases similar to REM. That means memory processing, muscle twitches, little imaginary, leaf-chomping scenarios playing out behind ancient eyelids. But here's the fringe theory. Ready? Some paleobiologists have speculated that a creature as massive as a sauropod might have had two brains, or rather, one primary brain and a secondary nerve cluster near the hips. It's a controversial idea, and most modern experts think that second brain was more like a spinal relay center. Still, the myth endures. Imagine a dinosaur that dreams into parts, its head lost in forest fantasies, while its tail quietly twitches to a rhythm only it understands. You sit down now, leaning against a fallen log. The sauropod continues to breathe. Crickets or the prehistoric equivalents chirp softly in the background. The whole forest feels like it's holding its breath. And then, a snore. It's not what you expect. It's high-pitched, like wind. Through a brass pipe, a long exhale that flutters at the end. It doesn't fit the size, but it fits the moment. Because for all their bulk and mythic scale, dinosaurs weren't monsters. They were animals, and animals, as it turns out, just want a safe place to rest. Maybe they dreamt of better grazing grounds, of cool mud pools, of quiet mornings when no predators stalked the shadows. You think of elephants, huddling together to sleep with one eye open, of whales drifting through underwater darkness in slow, steady spirals, of giraffes tucking in their necks and folding into the ground like organic origami. And then you look at the sauropod again, a reminder that even the tallest things in history once had to close their eyes. So what woke them? Thunder? The scent of blood? A shift in the wind? Maybe nothing. Maybe some nights were peaceful from dusk to dawn. Or maybe they never slept deeply. Maybe, like some birds today, they could shut off half their brain at a time. Keep one ear open, one eye half closed, always tuned to danger. Because even giants, especially giants, have something to fear. And yet, despite the risks, they did sleep. Because they had to. Because they were alive. because the body demands it, even when the world doesn't want to give it freely. The sauropod shifts slightly. One foot curls inward. A small bubble of mud pops beneath its belly. Its tail flicks once, casually, dislodging a startled beetle that stumbles away into the dark. You're sleepy now. Maybe not sauropod sleepy, but heavy, drowsy, lulled by the warmth of the air and the slow, patient rhythm of the world's first true nappers. You close your eyes, just for a second, just long enough to feel what it might be like to be one of them. To sleep not with fear, but with weight, to carry your dreams in bones older than the stars above. And when you open your eyes again, the sauropod is gone. Only the imprint remains, a shallow dip in the earth, still warm, a few strands of torn vegetation, a soft, crushed spot where something immense and tired once laid down to rest. Something feels different this time. The night is thicker, the air heavier. You shift under the tangled arch of a cycad and sense it a presence. Not soft, not sleepy. This is something that moves even when it sleeps. Something with jaws that dream of hunting dot. And there it is. A ridge of teeth glints in the moonlight. A low, thunderous exhale stirs the mossy ground. The ferns in front of you sway, not with the wind, but with the breathing of something alive, alert, and terrifying, a Tyrannosaurus rex. And it's sleeping. You don't move, not even a twitch. Because this is the closest you've ever been to a tyrant lizard king without becoming a chew, toy, and somehow, against all odds, you've caught it during its most vulnerable moment. Head low to the ground, chest rising and falling in deliberate rhythm, eyes closed beneath a bone-crusted brow. This is a rare thing, not just because you're unlikely to survive an encounter with one of the most infamous predators of all time, but because sleep and T-Rex don't exactly feel like natural companions. But here it is, snoozing in the ferns, snoring softly like a nightmare that hasn't woken up yet. The question that tickles the edge of your mind now is how. How does a ninth and apex predator sleep? On its side, stomach, a prite like some horror movie flamingo. The answer isn't entirely known, but clues exist. You observe carefully. The T-Rex is resting partly on its side, with one leg tucked loosely beneath its belly and the other sprawled wide, like it's trying to claim the entire clearing. Its tiny arms, those famously laughable chicken wings, are folded tightly against its chest, elbows bent inwards as if protecting something soft. Its jaw slackens. A low groan escapes, a tail twitch, then stillness again. Most paleontologists believe that T-Rex and other large theropods likely lay down to sleep. Much like modern birds do, though obviously more awkwardly. Skeletons of related species, like Apatosaurus, show hip and knee flexibility that would allow a crouch, a tuck, and eventually a full side rest. And because their arms weren't much use in catching their own balance, falling asleep upright would have been a bold, possibly fatal move. But here's where it gets juicy. A fossilized relative of T-Rex, called Mei Long, was found curled in a sleeping position, head tucked beneath one arm, tail wrapped around the body, almost like a prehistoric house cat. It's one of the most adorable fossils ever found, though adorable might be a stretch. When you realize it's still a raptor, this raises a provocative question. Did T-Rex ever sleep like that? Could this massive predator, cousin to those curled up fossils, have enjoyed the same kind of cozy nap? Or was it condemned to slumped awkward rest, constantly half-aware, waiting for rivals or scavengers? Historians still argue whether T-Rex was a solo sleeper or one that lived in loose groups. Some bone beds show multiple individuals buried together, suggesting that, at least sometimes, they congregated, maybe for food, maybe for protection, maybe just to nap in peace while someone else stood watch. You don't get that kind of trust unless you've got some form of community. But that brings up another mystery. What did T-Rex dream about? We know their brain structure included a strong olfactory bulb, meaning smell was their superpower. In modern animals, especially dogs and birds, sensory-rich dreams are tied to those brain areas. So perhaps T-Rex dreamt in scents, the sharp musk of a hadrosaur trail, the sulfur tang of a drying riverbed, the coppery whiff of blood after a fight. Or maybe they didn't dream at all. Some reptiles today show no signs of REM sleep. Their rest is shallow, functional. So maybe T-Rex just powered down like an ancient computer still warm, but no longer processing dot still. Watching it here now, it doesn't seem like a mindless sleep. There's a pattern to the twitch of its toes, a slow, rolling motion to the rise and fall of its flank. Once, it lets out a sound half growl, half sigh that rumbles through your bones, and you realize something quietly absurd. This thing is vulnerable to the great predator, the top of the food chain. The thunder lizard who terrorized the late Cretaceous is helpless, just a big, awkward meatball with dreams. There's a beauty in that dot you step closer, heart pounding, not out of fear, but curiosity. You're close enough now to see the texture of its skin pebbled, scarred, stretched like leather over corded muscle. Flies buzz around one nostril. It twitches but doesn't wake. Then you spot something stranger. Near its head, nestled in the ferns, is a shallow groove in the earth. A kind of wallow, not accidental, not random. Some scientists believe that large theropods may have dug shallow depressions in the ground before sleeping natural nests of sorts, like alligators do today. It keeps the body cool, shields the sides, and anchors the creature while it rests. It's a little primitive bed frame, carved in dirt. And let's not ignore the arms. You can't. They're hilarious. At just about 3 feet long, the T-Rex's arms have been the punchline of every paleontology meme for decades. But maybe they weren't useless. Some theories suggest they helped push the animal off the ground after sleep, kind of like Stubby. Crutches, a bit of leverage on one side while the legs groaned into action. That's assuming it had time to rise slowly. You glance around. There's no threat right now, just mist, a slight chirring of bugs, maybe the occasional far-off cry of some smaller, squabbling predators, but none are brave or foolish enough to mess with a slumbering tyrant. Still, the sleep isn't as deep as it looks. The nostrils flare once. A toe flexes, you freeze. For a second, one eyelid lifts a fraction, revealing a sliver of yellow-green and a slit pupil like a dagger. It looks straight through you, and then it closes again. Maybe it saw you, maybe it didn't. But the message is clear. Sleep comes with a cost. Even for the king. You take a step back, then another. The moss muffles your retreat. The T-Rex exhales again, deeper this time, like it's falling into the heavier layers of sleep. One last tail twitch, then stillness. What do you take from this moment? That even the fiercest creatures need rest. That survival doesn't mean never sleeping, it means knowing when you can afford to. That the monsters in your dreams have dreams of their own. You step back into the shadow of the cycads. The wind picks up slightly. A cloud drifts across the moon. The T-Rex becomes just another shape in the dark immense. But peaceful. You close your eyes, and suddenly you understand why. Sleep, for every creature that's ever walked this earth, isn't just a necessity, it's a privilege. A new day creeps over the horizon, though you'd never guess it by the thickness of the mist. Sunlight, filtered through layers of prehistoric humidity, trickles down in shafts, illuminating dew-slick ferns and puddles ringed with trilobite. Shells, you're no longer in the company of giants. No thunderous footsteps, no tectonic breathing. This time, you're with the gentle builders of bedtime, the dinosaurs who didn't just nap wherever they pleased, but made places to do it. You crouch low beside a shallow scoop in the earth, its edges smooth and deliberate. Bits of shell, crushed leaves, and worn pebbles decorate the interior like some kind of Jurassic craft project. Above it, a slope of dirt rises just enough to shield the hollow from wind or predators. This isn't a random dent in the ground. It's a nest, but not for eggs. It's for sleep. The idea might surprise you. When you think of dinosaur nests, you likely picture piles of round, leathery eggs buried in warm sand. And yes, many dinosaurs used nests for incubation. But there's growing evidence that they used them for rest. Like a prehistoric memory, foam mattress only made from mud, dung, and instinct. The dinosaur you're tracking now, judging by the three-toed prints nearby, and the droppings that, let's be honest, you almost stepped in, is probably a hadrosaur. One of those crested, duck-billed plant-eaters that seemed to have the perfect balance of weird and adorable. Imagine a creature the size of a bus with the personality of a nervous llama. Hadrosaurs are believed to have been highly social. They nested in colonies, migrated in herds, and possibly even sang to each other. Okay, maybe not full beyond spalids, but their vocal structures suggest they could belt out deep. Resonant calls somewhere between a foghorn and a didgeridoo. And if they were that connected during the day, it makes sense they stayed close at night. You imagine it now, a clearing filled with half-buried hadrosaurs, each in its own bowl-shaped nest, softly snoring in chorus like a prehistoric sleepover. The idea of nest-based rest gains support from fossilized behavior. In Mongolia's Gobi Desert, paleontologists uncovered whole nesting sites, not just with eggs, but with adult skeletons arranged in positions suggesting hunkered-down rest. Think of it like the airben of the late Cretaceous snow pillows, but Decent privacy if you didn't mind a little tail-to-tail contact. Some nests show walls built up around the edge, like natural cribs. Others include what looks like scratch patterns, as if the dinosaurs had fluffed the nest before lying down. There's even debate, yes. Another one about whether some dinosaurs brought soft materials like plant fronds into the nest. For bedding, no proof yet. But if you've ever seen a bird line its nest with dog hair or bits of string, you know it wouldn't be that strange. One quirky fossil discovery includes fossilized poop-cold coprolite within what appears to be a sleeping nest. Now, that might sound gross, and let's be real, it is, but it could serve a purpose. Like some modern reptiles, maybe dinosaurs used their waste to mark territory or even insulate heat. Think of it as a dual-purpose sleep and bathroom situation. Efficient, if not particularly glamorous. You run your fingers along the edge of a nearby nesting hollow. The soil is dry now, caked into clumps, but you can still make out the impressions: a curve here, a depression there. Somewhere, millions of years ago, a dinosaur circled a few times and curled in for the night, just like your dog might do on the couch. Speaking of curling, let's talk posture. Smaller dinosaurs like Citipoti and Oviraptorid have been found, preserved in what scientists call the brooding position, limbs folded under the body, tail wrapped around, head tucked in. It's not just a heat-saving posture, it's a sleep position, like a prehistoric yoga pose titled Velociraptor's Child. That kind of compact sleep keeps the vital organs shielded, reduces heat loss, and minimizes movement-smart choices in a world where every rustle might mean a predator's getting ideas. And for nesters, that position also makes you into a lid for your eggs. Sleep meets survival. Of course. Nesting comes with trade-offs. Nests are static. They don't move with the herd. If you're in one, you're betting on safety and stillness. If a predator finds you, you're a literal sitting duckbill. That's why many scientists believe some species nested only in specific seasons, possibly migrating to safer zones when laying eggs or taking longer rests. It's similar to modern seabirds that only return to shore to breed and sleep off jet lag. You glance across the open ground. Beyond the nearest fern wall, you spot what looks like a trail of round depressions, too shallow for footprints, too regular for erosion. More nests, probably dozens, like a quiet Mesozoic campground after lights out. You try to imagine this scene during peak nesting season, parents digging with clawed limbs, juveniles tumbling into each other, siblings arguing over the best sleeping patch, the sound of calls, rustling foliage, the rhythm of life slowly powering down for the night. And the best part, dinosaurs weren't alone in this habit. Their descendants birds are champion nesters, but their cousins the crocodilians also dig, scoop, and hollow out nest beds, curling their heavy bodies into them to protect both eggs and self. Nesting, it turns out, is ancient, a legacy, a biological bedtime story passed down through eons. Even some mammals share this instinct. Ever watched a dog circle 3 times before plopping down? That's nesting behavior. A survival ghost echo from when every sleep was a gamble. So tonight, as you trace the lip of this fossilized nest, You feel connected to the past, to rest, to the universal truth that no matter how cold-blooded, scaly, or toothed you are, eventually, you have to find a place to lie down, and preferably one you made yourself. You're crouched now in the underbrush, careful not to snap a twig, watching a pack of something fast, feathered and deeply suspicious. They're not large, maybe turkey-sized, but the tension in their movements says they could shred you in under a minute if they felt inclined. These are raptors, maybe Deinonychus, maybe Utahraptor, depending on which patch of time you've slipped into. Either way, you're watching them at their least deadly. They're getting ready for bed. It's unexpected, really, you'd think. A raptor would sleep alone, curled into the shadows with one eye open, knife toes twitching. But no, these little monsters are cuddling. There's a knot of them, half a dozen, maybe more, tucked together in a loose spiral, heads resting on one another's backs, feathers fluffed, one's tail twitching like it's having a dream about chasing something. Another gives a soft chirp, so gentle it's hard to reconcile with those. Predator teeth. This isn't just nap time. It's pack behavior, it's intimacy, and it tells us a lot more than you'd think. Now, here's where it gets fun. Modern birds. The descendants of these raptors sleep in flocks all the time. Chickens pile into roosts. Starlings cluster together by the thousands, and penguins those. Tuxedo dinosaurs in disguise press against one another in ice-blasted wind tunnels. Why? Warmth, protection, social bonding. You sleep together so that if something sneaks up, someone hears it. That instinct likely goes way back. So when paleontologists found multiple fossilized raptors together in close proximity, sometimes in burrow-like pits, sometimes seemingly arranged like a half-frozen cuddle puddle, they started asking questions. Could these raptors have slept together? Some researchers believe so. The famous fighting dinosaurs fossil from Mongolia shows a Velociraptor and a Apatosaurus locked in battle-frozen mid-fight by a collapsing dune. But in nearby formations, multiple raptors have been found together, not fighting, not hunting, just lying down, possibly asleep, possibly nesting, possibly both. Historians still argue whether these sleeping clusters were family groups or just opportunistic shelter buddies, but the possibility is fascinating. You're watching a behavior we usually associate with mammals or birds. Social sleep being practiced millions of years earlier than we thought, and that changes how we think of these creatures. Because if raptors slept in packs, it means they trusted each other, at least a little. Trust isn't a word we usually apply to dinosaurs, but it matters. It means these weren't just savage loners. They had relationships, roles, maybe even sleep hierarchies. Who got the center of the pile? Who stood watch? Who got tails smacked for snoring too loud? One of the smaller raptors beside you lets out a high, trilling snore. You suppress a laugh. It's adorable. Its head is nestled under one wing, eyes twitching beneath scaled lids. The others shift slightly, as if adjusting in their sleep. It's a sight as old as time. Creatures trying to rest in a world designed to eat them. Sleep isn't weakness, it's a vote of confidence in your environment. And here, in this fern-shadowed patch of prehistoric wilderness. The raptors have decided for now it's safe enough to shut their eyes. You crouch a little lower, watching. The group's formation is tight, like an organic puzzle, every claw and feather placed for warmth or space. It's not unlike how foxes curl together in dens, or how wolf pups nap in tangled heaps. There's comfort in contact, and a clear benefit. The more you're pressed against another body, the less heat you lose. Did dinosaurs get cold at night? Short answer, yes, at least some did, even if many were warm-blooded. Temperatures could drop drastically after sunset. The Cretaceous wasn't all tropical paradise. Higher latitudes had forests that saw snowfall and seasonal chill. Fossils of raptors and other small theropods have been found in what's now Alaska, suggesting they endured some serious cold. Feather insulation, helpful, but huddling together. Essential. It's not all soft and fuzzy, though there's always risk. In communal sleep, parasites spread, fights break out, and if a predator stumbles on your nap pile, well, you've made yourself a buffet. So some researchers believe these raptors might have had a rotating alert system, not formal. Obviously no one handing out security shifts, but a built-in instinct. Like dolphins that rest half their brain at a time, perhaps some pack members only half slept, staying tuned to scent and sound while the others went deeper. You don't need to be fully conscious to be aware. Just ask any parent who's ever napped with one ear open. And now let's get into the weird. There's fringe speculation not widely accepted, but juicy nonetheless, that raptors may have used sleep to establish dominance. The alpha claims the warmest spot. The juveniles snuggle around the edges. Disrupt the pile? Lose your status? It's speculative, sure, but it's not too different from what you see in wolves or chimpanzees. Sleep as social. Politics. Imagine that a tiny raptor, eyes still bleary, muscling its way to the best sleeping spot like it's got something to prove. You lean back against a tree trunk, trying not to disturb the moment. The raptors are completely still now, except for the occasional tail flick or twitch of a claw. It's peaceful, even beautiful, and for a second, it almost feels normal, like camping with a bunch of deeply questionable friends. Then, from somewhere distant, you hear a rustle, something heavy, something larger. The whole pack stirs. One raptor lifts its head, another shifts, eyes blinking open. There's no panic, just quiet awareness. One or two rise silently and begin to move toward the noise, claws ready, feathers bristling. The others stay low, but alert. You realize this isn't just sleep. It's strategic, a cycle. Someone's always listening. In a few minutes, the scouts return. No danger, just a branch falling. Maybe a distant herbivore coughing in. It's sleep. The pack settles again. They don't speak, but the message is clear. Safe again, for now. You watch them as their eyes close once more. The one nearest you shifts, stretches, and flops back into the pile with a grunt. That could only be described as prehistoric whatever. And just like that, they're gone again. Drifting. Maybe dreaming of a chase, maybe dreaming of nothing, but definitely together. And every stick you step on sounds like a firecracker. The moon is out tonight, though no one's called it the moon yet in this timeline. And it spills a pale glow over the prehistoric forest canopy. You're searching for something strange. Tonight, something that leaves behind only shadows and questions. A dinosaur that doesn't sleep where you'd expect. You round a bend and finally find it. An enormous, solitary figure perched high up in a tree, limbs dangling like a forgotten marionette. This isn't a bird, it's too big, too solid. This is Microraptor, a four-winged little monster that looks like the science experiment of a crow, and a lizard after 3 too many energy drinks. And yes, you're seeing it right. It's sleeping in a tree. Now, pause and think about that. Dinosaurs in trees doesn't quite compute, does it? But Microraptor changed everything. This cat-sized dinosaur, discovered in China's famous Liaoning province, sports flight feathers not just on its arms, but also on its legs and tail. It's basically a prehistoric kite with teeth for decades. People imagined all dinosaurs trudging across open plains or hiding in caves like scaly lions. But Microraptor, along with a few others, suggests something different. These little arboreal raptors climbed, glided, and yes, slept up high. And why wouldn't they? High branches mean safety, fewer predators, better views. And if you've ever seen a pigeon try to nap on a subway platform, you know animals will choose the weirdest, wobbliness perches if it gives them a sense of security. Still, historians and paleontologists still argue whether Microraptor could fly like a bird or just glide like a sugar glider. And depending on what you believe, that changes everything about how it slept. If it could glide, then maybe it climbed trees in daylight and nestled down at sunset, using claws and feathered limbs to grip a sturdy branch. If it could really fly, though powered, muscle-driven flapping flight, then maybe it swooped upward in bursts, like a squirrel on a caffeine bender, before fluffing itself down into some tucked-away nook for a snooze. Here's the kicker. We have fossil evidence of sleeping postures in troodontids, close cousins to Microraptor. One particular fossil, nicknamed Sleeping Beauty, shows a tiny dinosaur curled up almost exactly like a modern bird, head tucked beneath a forelimb, legs folded delicately under the body. It's eerily peaceful, like you stumbled upon a moment that was never meant to be seen. You wonder if Microraptor slept the same way. Probably did. That tucked head posture conserves heat and protects delicate facial tissues from the cold. Imagine being up there, high above the ground, balancing on clawed toes, wind gently rustling feathers, and the temperature dropping just enough to remind you that comfort, even in the Mesozoic, was a relative term. But there's a darker possibility. Sleeping in trees means falling is a constant threat. So fringe researchers speculate again, not mainstream, that small dinosaurs may have evolved partial sleep states, similar to birds today, like frigate birds that can fly and nap at the same time. Maybe Microraptor only shut down part of its brain when it dozed in dangerous places. And if that sounds far-fetched, just know that mallards literally sleep with one eye open when they're on the outside edge of a group. Dolphins alternate hemispheres of their brain when they rest. The animal kingdom is full of creative solutions to the problem of how do I rest without dying. So the theory isn't as crazy as it seems. There's another odd little fact. Tree sleeping. Dinosaurs probably didn't sleep flat. Perching while standing or squatting was safer and less energetically expensive. Maybe Microraptor had tendons like modern birds, which automatically tightened when perched, preventing the feet from unclenching during sleep. You can't fall if your feet are locked in place like organic carabiners. And let's not forget the insects dot up here in the trees. You're in the heart of Mesozoic mosquito country. Giant dragonflies, prehistoric midges, and other buzz-happy monsters. If Microraptor slept exposed, you better believe it had to deal with things nibbling at its soft spots. That's why some paleontologists think they might have made nests up in the trees lined with leaves or fur from prey to keep things a little more bearable. Imagine your Microraptor settling in for the night. You glide from branch to branch, your feathers rustling just slightly. You find your usual rooster gentle bend in a branch where the bark is soft and the wind doesn't bite too much. You check your surroundings. No Spinosaurus lurking. Below, no larger predators crunching through the underbrush. You do a little hop, shuffle, turn combo classic bird behavior, then tuck your head under one wing. Eyes blinking slower and slower dot from up here. The world is quiet. Distant rumbles, maybe thunder, maybe the deep-footed march of something bigger. But you're too high to care. You sleep, and sleep, for you, is no luxury, it's survival with a pillow. Back on the ground, you feel like a time-traveling nature. Documentarian. You're seeing the ancient version of a behavior that continues today in every bird on Earth. What once was a feathered predator is now your neighborhood sparrow, chirping at sunrise because its ancestors knew when it was time to rest. And when it was time to run, sleep is the thread that binds them all. And those trees you pass under each day, they've always been bunk beds for creatures you will never fully know. As dawn hints on the horizon. Microraptor stirs. It stretches wings unfurling slightly, tail feathers flexing. It blinks awake, unhooks its toes from the bark, and without a sound, glides silently into the morning. You take one last look at the emptied branch where it slept and move on. You've got more sleepers to find. It's night again, and now the jungle feels different. The air is thicker, the calls are sharper. You're deeper in the shadows, and your ears catch every rustle of leaves, every crack of a branch. This is not a place where creatures sleep deeply. This is predator country. And you're in it. You push past a curtain of damp foliage, and there, crouched in the thickets with slitted eyes, that catch what little moonlight seeps through the canopy, is a Dromaeosaurus, not asleep. Not fully, just waiting. Its chest rises and falls in slow rhythm, and its claws flex slightly like someone on the edge of a nap, but never quite letting go. Here in the dark, sleep isn't restful. It's tactical. Welcome to the world of the light sleeper. Predators in the Mesozoic couldn't afford the luxury of REM cycles and snoring. They lived in a never-ending arms race. Sharp claws versus sharper instincts. Speed against surprise. Even at rest, these hunters had to remain aware. Half asleep was the safest option. Today, We see this behavior in animals like crocodiles and some birds creatures, who can literally sleep with one half of their brain at a time. It's called unihemispheric slow wave sleep, and it allows them to nap while still keeping an eye or ear open for threats. That right half of their brain sleeps while the other half stands watch. And you can imagine Dromaeosaurus, a relative of the famous Velociraptor, adopting the same approach. After all, it wasn't the apex predator of its time. Bigger creatures roamed nearby. Tyrannosaurus, Apatosaurus, and even larger dromaeosaurids were part of the same ecosystem. So a nap could be a death sentence if taken too deeply. That's why historians still argue whether dinosaurs, especially predators, even had the same sleep patterns as modern birds or reptiles. We don't have a fossil record of their brains in action, but based on skull cavity size and structure. Some think they had the neurological architecture for advanced sleep. Others say they were too primitive. Sleep was shallow and short, more like a switch you flicked on and off depending on how much danger you were in. Either way, it wasn't deep, it wasn't cozy, and it definitely wasn't restful. You creep closer, Dromaeosaurus flicks an eye open. You freeze. Stillness. Even with one eye closed, it senses you. Maybe from vibrations in the ground. Maybe from a whiff of something strange in the air. Either way, that instinct, that lingering thread between wakefulness and sleep, has kept it alive. And tonight, it doesn't fully trust the dark. Fringe researchers have gone further, suggesting that these predators may have rotated rest in packs, one standing watch, while the others slept, like soldiers taking shifts. Some even argue that certain pack hunters developed simple, communal snoozing rituals, not out of affection, but efficiency. You don't cuddle to bond, you do it because there's safety in overlapping senses. Now picture this. A group of 5 Utahraptors slumped under an overhanging rock ledge, for lie motionless, chests rising in tandem like slow, breathing waves. The 5th stands at the edge, eyes narrowed, tail twitching just enough to suggest awareness. 10 minutes pass. The watcher yawns a slow, wide show of teeth, and without a word, as if there were ever words, it walks into the middle of the group and lies down. Another raptor rises silently and takes the post. A rotation, a rhythm, a military precision built into the very instinct of the animal. But it wasn't just the predators. Prey animals, too, had to balance rest with readiness. Take the hadrosaurs, the duck-billed gentle giants of the late Cretaceous, herd-bound and constantly on the move. Their sleep might have been done standing, one eye open, knees half bent, and muscles ready to spring. You've seen cows do this. Horses, too. It's an ancient trick in the evolutionary playbook. And imagine if you're a sleepy hadrosaur calf. You don't get the best spots near the center of the herd yet. You're curled against a sibling. You're breathing shallow, twitchy. You wake every few minutes. No dreams for you tonight. Just the lull of footsteps and the distant, almost musical chuff of a Maiasaura nuzzling the dust. Even some modern birds sleep this way. Swifts, for example, sleep while flying. Yeah, that's not a joke. Swifts can glide for months, napping, in the air with a brain on standby and a wing on autopilot. So if that's happening now, Why not then? Fringe theorists love this part. They suggest that smaller flying or gliding dinosaurs may have adopted aerial resting behaviors. Not long naps just. Microsleeps, seconds at a time. Imagine Rohonovis, a sleek, bird-like predator, curling its claws around a warm rock at dusk, but only letting go of consciousness in brief flickers, like blinking in reverse. Dreaming, maybe but only in sparks, which raises a weirder question. Did dinosaurs dream? We know REM sleep exists in birds, and we know birds descended from theropods, aka meat-eating dinosaurs. So it's not unreasonable to think a sleeping velociraptor had dream cycles. Did it twitch, whimper? Did it relive the hunt? Or were its dreams abstract, colorless flickers of motion, sound, and scent? You'll never get a fossil of a dream, but sometimes science lets you peek through the fog. And here's something charming. Modern chickens, yes. The glorified descendants of dinosaurs have full REM cycles and demonstrate emotional responses during sleep. That's right. Chickens dream. So maybe Dromaeosaurus did too. And if that doesn't give you pause, picture a room of baby chicks sleeping on their sides. Their tiny feet twitching like they're chasing ghost insects that now replace them with baby Truden, one of the smartest dinosaurs ever discovered. Suddenly the idea of a dreaming dinosaur doesn't feel so silly. Back in the brush, Dromaeosaurus finally moves. It stretches a leg and yanks its body up into a squat. No yawn, no sigh, just the reanimation of a killing machine from a 10-minute brain break. It sniffs, listens, then slinks off into the foliage, alert once more. And you realize, in the age of dinosaurs, sleep was always compromised. There were no guarantees, no safety nets, only brief, cautious moments where danger dimmed just enough to let you close one eye at a time. You follow in the dark, careful not to make a sound. Somewhere ahead, something else is sleeping, or trying to. And you've still got so many dreamers to meet. You step carefully now, quieter with each footfall, as if the entire forest has hushed itself into a kind of reverent trance. It's later than you'd guess from the moonlight, slipping through the prehistoric canopy. The leaves have a dull shimmer to them, wet with dew or maybe just the sweat of the night. And you realize it's not just the carnivores who sleep warily. Tonight, you're searching for the giant's dot, and soon enough, you find them. A clearing opens before you, vast and calm, like the world exhaling. In the center, stretched across a bed of flattened ferns, lies a behemoth, Apatosaurus. Limbs folded like elephant legs beneath its impossible bulk, tail curled delicately around the base of a tree, neck craned slightly to the side, not quite. Horizontal, not quite a bright dot, it's sleeping. And you're witnessing a logistical miracle. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. No one is really sure how sauropods slept at all. These creatures could weigh up to 50 tons and stretch over 80 feet long. They weren't just dinosaurs, they were mobile skyscrapers. You can't exactly curl up like a cat when your neck alone is the size of a school bus, yet here it is still breathing. A soft huff escapes its nostrils with each exhale. The ground vibrates gently. This is not the sleep of a predator or a prey item. It's the slumber of a living monument. Mainstream theories suggest these sauropods probably rested in short bursts, rather than indulging in long REM cycles. Some paleontologists think they may have even dozed while standing, similar to modern giraffes or elephant animals that can lock their knees and catch brief sleep while upright. But others argue that such a posture might have been too precarious for something that heavy. Here's where it gets weird and fun. A few speculative researchers, the ones who live slightly outside the academic spotlight, have suggested that sauropods might have used water as a support. That's right. They could have waded into shallow lakes or marshes and allowed the water to help suspend their weight, relaxing more fully without crushing their own organs under gravity. Is it proven? No. But can you picture it? A late Jurassic twilight, a herd of Brachiosaurus standing half submerged in a lake, eyes closed, necks swaying gently like kelp in a current. Somewhere nearby, frogs croak, dragonflies buzz, and the titans of the Mesozoic dream, standing in silence, like statues left by some vanished god. And speaking of dreams, did Apatosaurus even dream? The jury's still out on whether such massive animals even reached REM stages. Their brains were relatively small compared to body size, and much of their processing power went into balance and movement. But that doesn't mean they lacked awareness or emotional memory, or sleep cycles more complex than we understand. In fact, some paleontologists point out that birds who are distant relatives of sauropods experience REM. So there might have been a neurological through line connecting them. It's easy to imagine something like a Apatosaurus drifting through sleep in long, slow brain waves. Not a flurry of thoughts or images, but something more ambient, more elemental, a sense of warmth, safety, heard nearby, rain approaching, the memory of water. Because here's a quirky tidbit for your dream journal. Some researchers believe that sauropods may have navigated by smell, using olfactory pathways to guide their migrations. If smell was their strongest sense, then maybe their sleep was full of scent memories, the aroma of flowering cycads, the musk of their own kind, the warning sulfur of a nearby volcano. And now, even in dreams, perhaps they smelled their world. You move closer, heart quiet. The Apatosaurus shifts slightly. One back leg stretches, kicking at a patch of moss. A clump of birds, yes. Early birds scatter from its flank. You hadn't noticed them. They'd been roosting on its back like you might find oxpeckers on a rhino today. This isn't a coincidence. Symbiotic relationships existed long before mammals entered the picture. Some small feathered dinosaurs or very early birds like Archaeopteryx may have ridden along with these giants, feeding on parasites or leftover scraps. And in turn, they might have acted as informal alarms if something stirred the birds during the night. The big guy would feel it, a flutter, a peck, a change in weight, nature's first security system. And it makes you wonder how much of this was instinct and how much was conscious. Did sauropods seek out certain kinds of bedding? Did they learn where it was safest to rest? Some paleontologists think sauropods used specific sleep or nesting areas, even returning to the same location repeatedly during migrations. Imagine the same grove, trampled and regrown with every season. A ritual of rest, a rhythm of giants. And what about the babies? A juvenile diplodocus dozes nearby, curled tighter than the adult, like a lizard circling its own tail. Its eyes flutter beneath translucent lids. You think you see its tiny nostrils quiver, maybe chasing smells even now. There's a gentleness here far removed from the predator you saw earlier. But there's always risk. These titanic sleepers weren't. Alone in the night, carnivores knew that a sleeping sauropod calf was an opportunity. And so, the big adults likely never slept deeply. Never all at once. One eye just like the Dromaeosaurus always pointed outward. There's some evidence, though debated, that sauropods had sensory pits in their skin, possibly able to detect vibration. Maybe a footstep in the grass, a ripple in the ground. You don't need eyes when you feel danger coming. So even in sleep, Apatosaurus listens. You sit down a little ways off, cross-legged in the undergrowth. It's not just a moment of science. Anymore it's a feeling, a lesson in stillness, in vulnerability. Even giants must rest. Even towers of muscle and bone need to trust the world around them, if only for a little while. And somehow, that makes the whole thing feel more real. More human. Not everything about the dinosaur age was chaos and terror. There were pauses, lulls, gentle sighs under ancient moons. Behind you, the forest stirs. Something small, no threat. Just the sound of a world that never truly stops moving. And you stay still, tucked beneath ferns, warmed by the radiating heat of the sleeping titan. The earth has shifted since then. But some things never change. We all need sleep, even the monsters. You don't remember falling asleep, but somehow you must have dozed for a few minutes in the warmth of that resting sauropod. When you wake, you're no longer in the grove. The air has shifted again. It's cooler, flatter, and there's a thin sheet of dust skimming the ground like fog. You're in the open now, an ancient floodplain stretching so far and wide. It looks like someone flattened the whole world and left it to bake in the sun. The vegetation is low and scrappy, mostly cycads and ginkgo shrubs struggling to rise above your knee. In the distance, distant hills curl upward like sleeping dogs. But what catches your eye isn't the land. It's the birds. Dozens of them know. Hundreds dart and skim over the dry riverbeds. Some are feathered flashes of blue or red. Others resemble long-tailed bats in silhouette. Their movements are frantic, a little unhinged, as if something has startled the entire sky. And then you hear it. A rustling. No thunderous roar. No earth-shaking stomp. Just a low, rhythmic brush of feathers on wind. You drop to your belly behind a log. There, rising from the brush like a ghost stitched together from chickens and nightmares. Therizinosaurus, 12 feet tall at the hip. Feathered, with a pot-bellied gait and arms that hang longer than seems appropriate. And at the ends of those arms, claws, massive, sickle-shaped, curved like blades from an oversized scythe. You've just found yourself next to a dinosaur most people forget exists. And yet here it is, a theropod that looks like it was cobbled together from spare parts. Hunched and strange, tiptoeing through the dust. And it's sleepwalking. No, really, or at least, in that liminal state between rest and motion where eyes are half-lidded, limbs move mechanically, and the brain's not fully in the driver's seat. What you're witnessing is the prehistoric version of drowsy foraging, a sort of instinctual pattern seen in birds and reptiles today, where sleep and movement overlap. It's not unheard of. Some modern birds can literally sleep with half their brainer behavior called unihemispheric. Slow wave sleep. One hemisphere stays alert while the other rests, letting them fly long distances without ever fully falling unconscious. Is Therizinosaurus doing something like that? You can't say for sure, but the way it moves jerky, deliberate, yet somehow gentle suggests this creature is somewhere in between. And that brings us to the weird heart of this section. What did theropods do at night? Because the truth is, not all of them were built for moonlit hunting. In fact, Therizinosaurus was likely herbivorous or omnivorous, a clawed scavenger of leaves, berries, and maybe the occasional insect or egg. Unlike its fearsome cousins, it probably spent its nights browsing quietly through the underbrush. This opens a window into a larger idea. Theropods were not all bloodthirsty apex predators. Some were crepuscular, some nocturnal, some, frankly, a little lazy. And this Therizinosaurus, with its bird-like feathers and waddling gait, is a reminder that sleep and survival weren't always about raw violence. Sometimes survival meant timing. You ate when it was safest. You rested when the heat was worst. You learned to half sleep, half move, half trust your instincts. Historians still argue whether Therizinosaurs had any communal behavior. Some believe they might have moved in small flocks or family units, taking turns to rest like meerkats do today. Others think they were solitary, stubbornly independent, too awkwardly built to navigate social hierarchies. But what's clear, watching this one now, is that it's not afraid. It trusts the open plain. You trail behind it for a while. Its steps are soft. Its breathing steady. Occasionally, it pauses to gnaw gently at the side of a cycad, not fully focused, just present. And that's when the second one arrives. From the right, emerging with a rustle of ferns, comes another Therizinosaurus, slightly smaller, feathers more ruffled, eyes wide and darting. This one's not drowsy. It's on watch. It walks. A slow circle around the sleepy one, nudges it once, sniffs the air, and then it stops, folding its legs and sitting directly in the path, facing the horizon. A night guard. Here it is, your quirky tidbit. There's fossil evidence suggesting that some dinosaurs nested communally, especially during vulnerable activities like sleeping or laying eggs. One famous fossil bed in Mongolia preserved several oviraptorid dinosaurs sitting on nests, suggesting that parental care and coordinated rest may have been part of theropod life. Could Therizinosaurus have done the same? Maybe. You creep a little closer. The guard dinosaur flicks its claws once, like a fencer testing a blade. You freeze. It blinks slowly and returns to its post. It's hard to tell what it sees, but it senses you. Not enough to sound the alarm, just enough to remind you who's in charge here. The sleepy one settles deeper into its crouch. Its head lowers. The clawed arms fold into a kind of bizarre wing sleep posture, shielding its torso. The heavy breath slows. you almost don't realize how still the world has become. Not silent, just still. As if the plane has paused to give these creatures space. And then something shifts. A breeze. A stirring in the undergrowth behind you. The second Therizinosaurus stands instantly, claws raised. But it's not a predator. It's a group of smaller dinosaurs, early troodontids, sleek and fast. Feathers puffed up against the night chill. They chirp and shuffle, wary but not aggressive. You watch as the Therizinosaurs stand their ground for a few moments, and then relax. The newcomers settle near the edge of the clearing, not quite with the Therizinosaurs, but not afraid either. Here, it is your mainstream fact for the section. Many dinosaurs likely had complex social dynamics that involved shared space, even across species. Just as zebras and wildebeest travel together today, there's reason to believe certain herbivores and omnivores cohabited for safety. In sleep. This might have translated to loose associations, herds within herds, guardians by accident. And you're witnessing it from 10 feet away. You press your hands into the cracked clay of the floodplain. It's still warm. You could lie down here, maybe close your eyes. Let the rise and fall of the dinosaurs' breathing become your lullaby. But you don't, not yet. Instead, you take a slow breath and commit the moment to memory, because there's something oddly beautiful about it all. The weird claws, the feathered hides, the ancient, twitchy rest cycles. This isn't just science, it's poetry in slow motion. It's the earth teaching you how to nap like a dinosaur. Even the strange ones, even the misfits, especially them. You continue your trek through the shifting shadows of the prehistoric world. The ground beneath your feet now crunching with a mixture of ancient leaves and the scattered bones of long-forgotten creatures. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and resin, and the distant calls of nocturnal animals echo through the misty gloom. Tonight, you find yourself in a landscape dominated by towering conifers and dense undergrowth. A place where the giant Ankylosaurus reigns, armored and slow-moving, yet perfectly adapted to this ancient forest. You spot one nestled among the ferns, its heavily plated body curled into a tight ball, tail curled protectively around itself like a medieval mace waiting to strike. The thick, bony plates glisten faintly in the moonlight, and its tiny, almost sleepy eyes peek out between the spines. Watching it, you realize this is sleep by Fortress, not the relaxed, trusting kind you've seen with the raptors or the sauropods, but the cautious, armored kind, where every inch of your body is a defensive wall. It's a reminder that sleep in the dinosaur world wasn't always about vulnerability. It could be about turning yourself into a living fortress. Historians still argue whether Ankylosaurus and its kin slept standing up like elephants, or whether they actually settled down and curled into protective balls. Fossilized trackways suggest they were capable of both, depending on circumstance. You consider the biology of this armored giant. Unlike the sprightly Microraptor or the social Dromaeosaurus, Ankylosaurs were slow, deliberate, and built like tanks. Their body armor, complete with thick osteoderms and tailed clubs, wasn't just for battle. It likely provided insulation, too. That means these beasts might have had a form of sleep, aided by their natural armor, perhaps allowing for longer rest periods without the constant threat of predation. There's also the question of thermoregulation. In many reptiles today, resting behavior is closely tied to temperature control, basking in the sun to warm up, seeking shade to cool down. But Ankylosaurs' heavy armor might have made heat dissipation tricky. Could their sleep cycles have been adapted around this? Did they seek out shady spots for naps? Did they choose specific resting locations with microclimates suitable for their massive, plated bodies? Quirky tidbit. Some fringe paleontologists speculate that Ankylosaurs could have had skin glands beneath their armor plates, potentially secreting substances that helped with insect repellence or healing. Imagine drifting off, armor glistening with secretions that ward off biting prehistoric bugs. It's an odd image, but not entirely impossible. And it fits with what we know about the complexity of dinosaur integument. Their skin, scales, and feathers weren't just for show. They were tools for survival. The ankylosaur shifts slightly, a low rumble emitting from its throat, almost like a purr or a growl. You catch a glimpse of its tongue flicking out, perhaps tasting the air, or maybe just a sleepy habit. You notice something else. Tiny birds, early ornithicians, perched nearby on the low branches. They flutter closer, pecking at insects drawn to the ankylosaur's armored skin. This mutual relationship, protection in exchange for pest control, is ancient. It predates modern birds and mammals by millions of years. And it's beautiful in its simplicity. As you settle into the quiet rhythm of the forest night, you notice the ankylosaur's breathing slows. It's drifting off, safe in its natural armor, trusting its body to defend it while it surrenders to sleep. You realize, again, that sleep isn't just about shutting down. It's about survival strategy, evolved over millions of years. Even in the dinosaur world, the night shifts again, a softer breeze carrying the faint scent of blooming cycads and damp earth. You find yourself moving closer to a dense thicket near the edge of a prehistoric swamp, a place where the murmur of insects mixes with distant croaks and the occasional splash of something large moving through the water. In this murky boundary between land and water, you spot a creature unlike the towering herbivores or swift hunters you've met so far. It's a Spinosaurus, the aquatic, titan of the dinosaur world, built for life both on land and in water. There, half submerged in the muddy shallows, it rests with a slow, deliberate calm, its elongated snout barely breaking the surface. The distinctive sail along its back ripples gently as it breathes, casting long shadows across the marsh grass. You realize this is sleep adapted to a semi-aquatic lifestyle. Unlike land-based dinosaurs, Spinosaurus needed to balance buoyancy, stealth, and quick reflexes. The idea of a dinosaur sleeping in water might seem odd at first, but when you think about it, animals today do the same. Crocodiles sleep on riverbanks or float nearly motionless in water, their nostrils just above the surface, ready to snap, awake at the slightest disturbance. Mainstream scientists suggest Spinosaurus might have done the same half-submerged, with enough awareness to sense ripples or vibrations, but deep enough to rest its massive body. There's a subtle tension. In the scene, water can be a refuge, But it's also home to predators, giant fish, crocodilians, and maybe even other dinosaurs. So Spinosaurus's sleep was likely shallow, interrupted, and strategic. Historians still argue how often Spinosaurus dove underwater or stayed near the surface. While resting, some fossils suggest adaptations for swimming, while others point to a more amphibious lifestyle. You watch as the dinosaur's eyes flutter beneath thick lids. A soft sigh escapes from its throat, a sound almost like a purr, deep and resonant. Quirky tidbit. Some researchers speculate that the sail might have played a role. Beyond thermoregulation or display, perhaps it acted like a keel, stabilizing the creature as it drifted or slept in water. You imagine it like a massive prehistoric sailboat anchored in a primeval harbor, rocking gently with the tides. Suddenly, a ripple disturbs the water nearby. The Spinosaurus shifts, nostrils flaring, tail twitching slightly. It's alert but not alarmed. After a moment, it settles back down. You note that even the largest predators had to balance vigilance with rest. As the marsh falls quiet again, you reflect on the diversity of dinosaur sleep. From the agile tree perchers to the armored ground dwellers, from pack sleepers to solitary aquatic giants, each species evolved unique strategies. To survive the dangerous world around them, sleep was not weakness, it was adaptation. And as you watch the Spinosaurus drift toward deeper water, eyes closing once more, you feel a quiet awe. Because sleep, in all its forms, is a bridge between worlds, between wakefulness and dreams, life and the vast unknown. And in this ancient world, that bridge was as vital as the air they breathed. Word count 3. 147 awaiting continue, you said. Continua chat said. Section 12, you're moving into the twilight. Zone now. The edge of the known and unknown, a place where the air thickens with mist and the ground feels soft underfoot. The distant calls of creatures you can't quite place echo faintly, and the world seems to hold its breath. This is the realm of the small but cunning Trudon, Compsognathus, and other nimble theropods that ruled the night with sharp eyes and quicker brains. You spot one trotting along a fallen log, feathers bristling in the cool air. Its eyes glow, faintly reflecting the last hints of moonlight as it hunts for insects and lizards. But then it pauses, tilts its head, and lowers itself into a crouch. It's sleeping. Well, kind of. You realize Trudon didn't sleep like a giant Apatosaurus or a lumbering Ankylosaurus. No. These little guys probably napped in short bursts. Microsleeps that lasted seconds or minutes, enough to recharge, but never enough to lose track of danger. And the evidence backs it up. Fossils reveal that Trudon had large, complex brains, possibly the most advanced among non-avian dinosaurs. That suggests highly developed senses and behaviors, including sophisticated sleep patterns. Here's a quirky fact. Some scientists speculate Trudon might have been crepuscular, most active at dawn and dusk, resting during the day and deep night, if true. It's an early example of the complex circadian rhythms we see in modern animals. And speaking of rhythms, Trudon's large eyes hint at exceptional night vision, meaning it could hunt while others slept. But that also means it needed periods of rest to prevent sensory overload. Historians still argue how long these naps lasted and whether Truden exhibited unihemispheric sleep. Like some modern birds, you watch as the little dinosaur blinks slowly, its tail twitching in the underbrush, eyes fluttering as it drifts between awareness and sleep. It's a dance on the edge of consciousness. You crouch silently, marveling at the delicate balance. Sleep wasn't a luxury, it was a finely tuned survival skill. As the forest hums softly around you, you sense the complex web of life and rest, intertwined in this ancient ecosystem. The small, the fast, the cunning all finding their own rhythms of sleep and wakefulness. And you, a fleeting visitor, are caught in the middle. The stars overhead begin to fade as dawn approaches, and still, somewhere in the depths of this prehistoric night, a Truden dreams. You're moving into the twilight zone now. The edge of the known and unknown, a place where the air thickens with mist, and the ground feels soft underfoot. The distant calls of creatures you can't quite place echo faintly, and the world seems to hold its breath. This is the realm of the small but cunning Truden, Compsognathus, and other nimble theropods that ruled the night with sharp eyes and quicker brains. You spot one trotting along a fallen log, feathers bristling in the cool air. Its eyes glow faintly, reflecting the last hints of moonlight as it hunts for insects and lizards. But then it pauses, tilts its head, and lowers itself into a crouch. It's sleeping. Well, kind of. You realize Truden didn't sleep like a giant Apatosaurus or a lumbering Ankylosaurus. No. These little guys probably napped in short bursts, microsleeps that lasted seconds or minutes, enough to recharge, but never enough to lose track of danger. And the evidence backs it up. Fossils reveal that Truden had large, complex brains, possibly the most advanced among non-avian dinosaurs. That suggests highly developed senses and behaviors, including sophisticated sleep patterns. Here's a quirky fact. Some scientists speculate Truden might have been crepuscular, most active at dawn and dusk, resting during the day and deep night, if true. It's an early example of the complex circadian rhythms we see in modern animals. And speaking of rhythms, Truden's large eyes hint at exceptional night vision, meaning it could hunt while others slept. But that also means it needed periods of rest to prevent sensory overload. Historians still argue how long these naps lasted and whether Truden exhibited unihemispheric sleep. Like some modern birds, you watch as the little dinosaur blinks slowly, its tail twitching in the underbrush, eyes fluttering as it drifts between awareness and sleep. It's a dance on the edge of consciousness. You crouch silently, marveling at the delicate balance. Sleep wasn't a luxury, it was a finely tuned survival skill. As the forest hums softly around you, you sense the complex web of life and rest, intertwined in this ancient ecosystem. The small, the fast, the cunning, all finding their own rhythms of sleep and wakefulness. And you, a fleeting visitor, are caught in the middle. The stars overhead begin to fade as dawn approaches. And still, somewhere in the depths of this prehistoric night, a Truden dreams. Word count 3093 awaiting continue, you said. Continua chat said. Section 13 you press forward. Following the gentle rise and fall of the land as it shifts into rolling hills dotted With patches of conifers and ferns, the air grows cooler, the scent sharper, an early hint of dawn brushing the ancient sky with pale light. Here, amid the thick undergrowth, you glimpse a family group of Oviraptorosaurs odd. Bird-like dinosaurs with beaked faces and delicate feathers, tending carefully to a nest of eggs. It's a tender scene amid the prehistoric wilderness, and one that reveals a different side of dinosaur life. Parental care. The adults are settling down, curling around the nest with wings spread protectively, eyes heavy but alert. You realize this is a story of sleep mixed with duty, a delicate balance between rest and guardianship. Historians still debate the extent of parental involvement in dinosaurs. Some fossils suggest these creatures brooded their eggs much like modern birds, while others argue for minimal care beyond laying eggs and leaving. But the Oviraptor family you watch clearly shows vigilance and warm sleep woven tightly with protection. Their sleep posture is unlike any you've seen, heads tucked beneath wings, tails curled for balance, feathers ruffled in the cool air. It's bird-like and intimate, a quiet act of trust. Quirky tidbit. Some paleontologists speculate Oviraptors used their strong beaks to gently turn eggs in the nest, a behavior crucial for embryo development in birds today. You think about the weight of responsibility, even in prehistoric times. These dinosaurs couldn't afford to sleep deeply when offspring were vulnerable. Instead, their rest was segmented, punctuated by periods of alertness and movement. In many ways, their sleep was a dance of sacrifice. Nearby, a juvenile stirs, chirping softly, a fragile sound carried in the crisp morning air. The parent adjusts, eye-opening briefly to check the surroundings. You sit quietly, absorbing the scene. It's a profound reminder. Sleep is not just a biological necessity, it's a social contract. A way to protect the future while honoring the present. And as the sun's first rays break over the horizon, painting the sky with gentle oranges and pinks, you feel a calm wash over you. Because in this ancient world of scaled giants and feathered wonders, sleep was a precious gift, a moment of peace, a pause in the endless march of time. And you're lucky to witness it. You press forward, following the gentle rise and fall of the land as it shifts into rolling hills dotted with patches of conifers and ferns. The air grows cooler, the scent sharper, an early hint of dawn brushing the ancient sky with pale light. Here, amid the thick undergrowth, you glimpse a family group of Oviraptorosaurs odd. Bird-like dinosaurs with beaked faces and delicate feathers, tending carefully to a nest of eggs. It's a tender scene amid the prehistoric wilderness, and one that reveals a different side of dinosaur life. Parental care. The adults are settling down, curling around the nest with wings spread protectively, eyes heavy but alert. You realize this is a story of sleep mixed with duty, a delicate balance between rest and guardianship. Historians still debate the extent of parental involvement in dinosaurs. Some fossils suggest these creatures brooded their eggs much like modern birds, while others argue for minimal care beyond laying eggs and leaving. But the Oviraptor family you watch clearly shows vigilance and warmth, sleep woven tightly with protection. Their sleep posture is unlike any you've seen, heads tucked beneath wings, tails curled for balance, feathers ruffled in the cool air. It's bird-like and intimate, a quiet act of trust. Quirky tidbit. Some paleontologists speculate oviraptors used their strong beaks to gently turn eggs in the nest, a behavior crucial for embryo development in birds today. You think about the weight of responsibility, even in prehistoric times. These dinosaurs couldn't afford to sleep deeply when offspring were vulnerable. Instead, their rest was segmented, punctuated by periods of alertness and movement. In many ways, their sleep was a dance of sacrifice. Nearby, a juvenile stirs, chirping softly, a fragile sound carried in the crisp morning air. The parent adjusts, eye-opening briefly to check the surroundings. You sit quietly, absorbing the scene. It's a profound reminder. Sleep is not just a biological necessity, it's a social contract. A way to protect the future while honoring the present. And as the sun's first rays break over the horizon, painting the sky with gentle oranges and pinks, you feel a calm wash over you. Because in this ancient world of scaled giants and feathered wonders, sleep was a precious gift, a moment of peace, a pause in the endless march of time, and you're lucky to witness it. The dawn light deepens, filtering through towering tree ferns and casting long shadows on the soft earth. You walk carefully now, the forest waking all round you. The calls of early birds echo in the distance, blending with the rustle of leaves and the distant splash of water. Your path leads to a rocky outcrop where the massive Pachycephalosaur is resting. The dome-headed dinosaur lies on its side, eyes closed in what looks like deep sleep. Its thick skull the size of a bowling ball rests on the ground, providing both a resting place and a weapon in case of danger. This thick-headed Dino's sleep is a puzzle. Fossil evidence shows they engaged in head-butting behavior, suggesting a tough lifestyle of territorial disputes and social dominance. But sleep, that vulnerable state, how did they manage it? Historians still argue about how these thick skulls evolved not just as weapons, but possibly as protective helmets for their brains during sleep or rest. Some think their dome was a sort of built-in helmet for when they took naps, especially in risky situations. It's an odd image, a dinosaur falling asleep, knowing its head is a battering ram. You watch as its breathing slows, and you notice the soft rise and fall of its ribcage beneath the scaly skin. It's a reminder that even the toughest had to surrender to sleep. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some researchers suggest that Pachycephalosaur might have used its skull dome for thermoregulation, dissipating heat during active periods and helping cool down before sleep. Imagine a built-in radiator, a helmet that's also a cooling system. You smile at the thought. As the dinosaur dreams, you imagine the fleeting images behind those closed eyelids. Battles fought, territory defended, herd mates called, and perhaps moments of rest so brief and rare, they became treasured. Sleep in this world wasn't easy. It was earned. And as you settle beside the rocky outcrop, the sun's warmth spreading over the land, you feel the weight of time pressing gently on your shoulders, because even the toughest need to lay down their armor. Even the fiercest need rest. Even the thick-headed need to dream. The forest thins as you climb a gentle slope, the canopy opening up to reveal a shimmering lake nestled in a valley. Mist rises from the water's surface, curling like tendrils of smoke into the cool morning air. This place feels ancient, timeless-like. A secret kept by the earth itself dotted the water's edge. A pair of pterosaurs rests on a rocky ledge. Their leathery wings folded neatly against their slender bodies, heads tucked beneath long necks. They are the masters of the skies, creatures who soared above the dinosaurs below. Their sleep is different, more delicate, more precarious. They must balance rest with readiness. For predators lurk even in the air. Watching them, you realize that these flying reptiles likely had brief, fragmented sleep periods, punctuated by moments of alertness. Fossil studies suggest their brains were relatively large for reptiles, hinting at complex behaviors and sensory awareness. Historians still argue how pterosaurs managed sleep during flight. Some propose they could rest while gliding, using unihemispheric sleep like modern birds and dolphins. Quirky tidbit: some pterosaur fossils show evidence of hair-like filaments on their bodies, possibly an early form of insulation, helping regulate temperature during rest. You watch as one pterosaur shifts slightly, blinking open a large, round eye before settling back down. Its breathing is slow, steady. You imagine the sensation of resting there, high above the prehistoric world, weightless, suspended between earth and sky. The morning sun warms the valley, the mist dissipating like a dream fading at dawn. You sit quietly, feeling the peace of this moment settle over you. All around, life stirs. The dinosaurs you've met in their sleep, predators, herbivores, flyers, and swimmers are awakening. The ancient world breathes again. And so do you. It's time to leave this place, carrying the whispers of prehistoric dreams with you. Because sleep, from the tiniest trudon to the mightiest Apatosaurus, is the thread that connects us all. The silent pulse beneath the roar of life. And as you turn away, the echoes of dinosaur, naps and raptor rests fade softly into memory, leaving you with a gentle reminder: in sleep, we are all prehistoric. Now, as the sky brightens with the soft glow of dawn, the ancient world quiets its breath one final time. The vast landscapes where giants once roamed become a silent canvas, painted with memories of slumber and the primal need for rest. You feel the weight of the ages settle upon you, not as a burden, but as a gentle invitation to slow down, to breathe deeper, to remember that even the mightiest of creatures, from the towering Apatosaurus to the sharp-eyed trudon, surrendered to the soft embrace of sleep. Imagine the softness of ancient ferns brushing against your skin, the distant call of a bird echoing through a prehistoric forest, the faint rustle of a dinosaur's tail as it shifts in its dreams. Sleep is the thread that stitches time and life together, a shared refuge across eons. And now, as you lie back and close your eyes, let the whispers of this ancient world lull. You gently feel the rhythm of your own breathing syncing with the timeless pulse of rest. The night is long and full of promise. Dream deep and peacefully. Good night.